I got this feeling, ooh, that tonight's gonna be a good night. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the channel. I want to talk about feelings, nothing more than feelings. And I think it's very, very important that we talk about feelings because that's what this is all about, right? So in law of attraction, they use the word vibration, right? In certain quantum theoretical circles, they call it energy, right? But in the world of Neville, it's called feelings, okay? And I think it's actually better to understand it as feelings. And it's because we are beings, right? Divine beings who interpret the world through feeling. And really, really think about that. Like, think of yourself like an alien, and that the way in which we speak as an alien race, right, is through feeling, okay? And so that is our language to source, to God, the inner man, right? The inner self, whatever nicknames you want to use that you are, connecting with God and love. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure it's a name that means something to you and that is all powerful and all loving and all accepting and is always for you. Those are extremely important adjectives. The way you describe God will determine how successful you are, or whatever this thing is that you want to call it, right? Inner self. That's what resonates with me. Okay. And so when you're talking about feelings, do not think of feelings as just what I feel good. It's deeper than that. Okay. It is a language. It is a way of speaking. Okay. And that is the way in which the inner self speaks to itself. Okay, it is a love language. It is a language of love. This is why Neville says the one thing that you should be really getting good at is falling into the state. Okay, why does he say that? Well, it's almost like he purposefully left out the most important word, right? Almost like a Jewish koan, which means like, a story or a sentence or a phrase that's meant to teach you a lesson, okay? And that is falling in love with the state. You're meant to fall in love with it like a lover. You're meant to woo it, okay? You're not meant to systematize and be like, hey, you didn't do this yesterday, so I love you less. It is not about that. It's about what can I do to serve you, right? And that's the relationship, by the way, between you and the state. The state is there to serve you, and you should be there to serve it, okay? Now, we don't really talk about that in these kind of circles, but that's the relationship dynamic that you should be seeking out for any state that you want to shift out of and to shift into. Are you with me? Right? It is based on love, okay? Not that rom-com love that you see in the movies, but the kind of love, and this is very powerful, okay? And this is why this is the greatest of all feelings. The greatest of them is love, according to the author Paul in Scripture, right? Again, which is written as a mystical document to the mind, right? And so love, though, is extremely interesting. And we're going to go back to why feelings are important and right, how to know whether you're feeling what you're feeling, okay? And so we need to talk about love, though. And I'm going to do a separate video on this one. But love in the Hebrew sense is violent. Now, I'm not condoning violence when I say violent. What I'm saying is it's symbolic. What does that mean? Well, it means love is a symbol. Love isn't this kind of thing in a movie that's like, oh, this person doesn't know this person and they get together and they have this problem and, they initially fall in love and then there's this problem and it separates them and then they fall in love and everything's happy. That's not love at all. That's total infatuation, right? That's not a love story. That's an infatuation story, okay? To the Hebrew mind, the highest form of love is agape. Now, you may have heard this in church. You may have heard this in other religious groups. Whatever it is, 99% of the time, it's misinterpreted. Because if you take it down and drill down into the ancient Greek koinonia language, actually pre-even koinonia, right? And for me, as a linguist, I go into, okay, well, what informed koinonia? What informed this kind of communal expression of Greek? And it's not just Greek, right? It goes to like Phoenicia and all these other places. Because it's super important that we get to the root and the heartbeat of what these terms are, okay? So when you take it to its Greek origins, it's violence. It's violence to the mental, like, limiting beliefs. It's violence towards feelings that feel like a threat, right? And what does that mean? Well, it's symbolic in that one of the kind of metaphors for this agape love is beheading yourself, right? And so what that means is, right, beheading is what? A metaphor. Even Neville talks about this. A metaphor for your state of consciousness, your current state of consciousness. And so agape is, I love myself, which means, and what does Paul say? It's the highest form of what? It's greater than faith. It's greater than hope. Why? Because it is the ultimate elimination of the old state, of the old story, of the fears, of the limiting beliefs. This is what agape is. This is what I want you to really grasp when you say, I love myself. What you're saying is, I'm willing to give up all of my limiting beliefs. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get me into the state, whatever it is. This is why Neville calls it brazen impudence. Like, this is going to cost you something, okay? But like Neville says, it doesn't cost you something in the world of Caesar. It costs you your old emotions. It costs you the old story. It costs you the old fears, right? And so that's the cost. You have to give up those things. Okay, so how do you give them up? Well, according to Neville and many people in the Law of Assumption community, it isn't about focusing on what you're giving up. Okay, you don't have to sit there for 20 years and try to go to counseling and heal all of those limiting beliefs. I'm very pro counseling, by the way. But at the same time, what I'm trying to get at is that, like, in the ancient Hebrew kind of cosmology, the way in which they understood the world is a phrase called tikkun olam. And what it means is you use the light to overcome the darkness, right? And you build this world. That's how you heal the world. But you are the world, right? You are the children. I'm kidding. So, you know, that's what love is. But how do you know that you're in the state? How do you know that you're in the feeling? Okay? So remember, feelings are what you would feel. It's a future tense, but you're feeling the future tense now. So it's like you're taking a future feeling, right, of joy, of acceptance, of celebration, of possibility, of, growth, whatever it is that you want to feel, and you're bringing it into the now. So you're taking a future emotion that you would have, and you're saying, I feel that now. So that's your biggest test is, am I feeling what I would feel? Because remember, this is his kind of like equation towards manifestation, right? What would you feel? Okay, would, as in future tense. But then you're saying it's now, because in the mind, everything is only now. That's it. So it's taking that feeling, and so if you're not feeling that, then you're not in the state of the wish fulfilled. Right? And so that to me is an easy marker, an easy way to measure whether you believe you have what it is. So do you have the house? What kind of feelings would you have? Do you have excitement? Do you have joy? Do you have anticipation? Right? Now, some people argue that, since Neville says this is kind of like a past tense thing. So this is really, really weird, right? So Neville kind of combines the past, present, and the now into like the future into the now. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you have to think of the event as if it's already happened. So like you have to think of it as a memory that you're remembering. Okay, so that's like a past thing, right? But then you're bringing in the future emotions, but then you're living it as if you're now, right? And so it's kind of a paradox that you're dealing with all three forms of time into one moment, and you're collapsing all of those three emotions into like the past memory emotions, but then you're also bringing in a future emotion, right? It sounds confusing, but what you want to do is you want to essentially measure this and use this as a way to measure where you are. So let's recap as I close this, okay? You want to take a future emotion, but remember the scene that you're creating as a past memory. So a lot of people argue, oh no, you should feel neutral. Not necessarily, because you still might be very joyful, even if it's 3 months of having the new house. Maybe you're still having a great time making memories with your new grandkids. Whatever it is that you want, there's nothing wrong with feeling a feeling that's not neutral. Okay, so don't judge yourself like, oh, I don't feel neutral yet. No. Because sometimes you will feel neutral about something that you're trying to manifest. Sometimes you'll feel excited. Sometimes you'll feel bored. Sometimes whatever it is. And by the way, use all like emotions to get into the state, right? Neville even kind of argues this across the board. He talks about stories about people using frustration, right? And he says, listen, whatever gets you there in terms of feelings, then do that. And so I would encourage you to use this little technique that we've talked about today as a way to measure. Am I bringing in the future feeling into the now? And if I'm not, if I'm still thinking from the now, then I haven't hit the wish fulfilled yet. So keep going.